My name is Cheryl. 3 weeks ago, I was in a magnificent ballroom filled with around 150 people. They were my father's associates, business partners, and family friends. The atmosphere was festive, but for me, it turned into a nightmare when my mother stepped up to the microphone. At least Cheryl found a husband, even if we have no clue what he does for a living, she sneered. The room erupted in laughter. My father, a wealthy real estate mogul, grinned widely. My younger sister, Lisa, who was a high-flying finance executive, smirked maliciously. And my husband, Alex, the man they'd regarded as a nobody for the past 4 years, calmly pushed back his chair and rose to his feet. What followed left everyone in shock. My father's most important business partner, Mrs. Thompson, dropped her champagne glass. My mother's face lost all color, and my sister finally grasped why I'd never asked our parents for a dime. Before I delve into this tale, let me take you back 6 years. I had just completed a long and tiring day of parent-teacher meetings at the local middle school where I taught. Exhausted and in desperate need of coffee, I headed to a busy cafe near my school. The only available seat was across from a man, Alex, who was typing furiously on his laptop. "Do you mind if I sit here?" I asked. He looked up, his warm brown eyes meeting mine, and offered a friendly smile. "Please," he replied. Over the next 2 months, we would sit at that same table every day. He told me he worked in the field of education, and I shared my job as a middle school teacher. Unlike my family, he never pried into my family's wealth, and I respected his privacy too. For the first time, someone saw me for who I was, not as my father's less successful daughter or in Lisa's shadow. When Alex asked me out to dinner, I said yes before he even finished the sentence. We dated for 2 years. Our relationship was simple and full of love. We went to farmers markets, had cozy movie nights, and he would cook for me in his modest apartment. I fell in love with how intently he listened whenever I talked about my students. When Alex proposed, I waited 3 weeks to tell my parents. I knew their reaction. "He works in education? What does that mean exactly?" My mother scoffed. "It means he helps kids learn," I retorted. My mother sighed. "Cheryl, I had higher hopes for you." Alex never pressured me to explain more about his work. Once, when I asked him why, he took my hand and said, "I want your family to accept me for who I am, not what I have." I should have seen the signs of my family's indifference earlier. Every holiday dinner was the same. "Lisa, tell everyone about that big merger you handled," my father would say proudly. Lisa would preen and launch into a long story about her business deals, and the whole table would hang on to her every word. Then my mother would turn to me. "Cheryl, you're still teaching? How quaint." She said it as if teaching was the most insignificant job in the world. Last year, my students organized a science fair. They'd spent months preparing their projects. I invited my parents. "Dad, it's this Saturday at 2 p.m. I really want you to come." My father barely looked up from his phone. "I have important business meetings. Maybe next time." Meanwhile, he'd visited Lisa's office countless times that year. The final straw was my father's retirement party invitation. Lisa received a beautifully engraved invitation delivered by a courier while I got an email. That evening, my mother called to discuss the seating arrangements. "You and Alex will be at table 20. It's in the far corner, near the service entrance." I protested. "Mom, that's the worst table in the room." She snapped, "We have important guests. You don't want to interrupt them with your small talk about school." That night, as I sat on our bed looking at my phone, Alex came in. "They put us in the corner, didn't they?" he asked. I nodded. He sat beside me, took my hand, and said, "I've kept quiet for 4 years because you asked me to. But if they hurt you again, I won't stand by." I hesitated, but then I whispered, "Please come with me." The night before the party, I couldn't sleep. I thought about all the times I'd been belittled by my family. I also thought about the children Alex and I hoped to have someday. I didn't want to teach them to tolerate humiliation or to believe that their worth was determined by money or status. At the party, when we arrived, my mother looked at Alex with disdain. "You brought him," she said. We made our way to table 20. It was even worse than I'd imagined, right next to the noisy kitchen. As we sat down, Mrs. Thompson, my father's business partner, stared at Alex. "Have we met?" she asked. Alex smiled politely and shook his head. But she kept looking at him, pulling out her phone and scrolling through it. Before she could say anything, my father took the stage. Lisa appeared at our table, holding a glass of champagne like a weapon. Cheryl, you actually came. This isn't really your kind of event. Her eyes slid to Alex. Nice suit. From a discount store. Alex remained calm. It's simple, that's all. Lisa laughed. Alex, what do you do again? Something in education, right? Like a tutor. I felt my anger rising, but Alex squeezed my hand. Not a tutor. I build educational software platforms that help millions of kids learn, he said quietly. Lisa scoffed, sure, whatever that means. Then my father started his speech. He talked about his successful career in real estate, praised Lisa for following in his footsteps, and then he turned to me. Cheryl, well, she's still trying to figure out her life. But we love her anyway, he said with a fake smile, as if I were some kind of burden. The room laughed, and I felt my heart shatter. But Alex was no longer sitting beside me. He walked up to the stage calmly. May I have a word? He said into the microphone. The room fell silent. My father looked annoyed. Who are you? Alex replied, I'm Alex, Cheryl's husband, the one you've ignored for 4 years. For 4 years, I've sat back while you and your family disrespected Cheryl. But no more. He reached into his jacket pocket and took out an envelope. My company, EDU Tech Innovations, is worth over $250 million. We've been featured in top business magazines, and I've had meetings with government officials about educational reform. And this, he said, taking out a document from the envelope, is a $6 million grant for a STEM program at Cheryl's school. The room was in shock. Lisa's face turned pale, and my parents were speechless. Alex looked at my parents and said, Cheryl is an amazing teacher. She impacts the lives of kids every day. And you've treated her like she's nothing. Cheryl deserves respect, and from now on, if you can't give it, then we have nothing to do with you. After that, we walked out of the ballroom. In the car, I was in a daze. Alex asked, are you okay? I said, I don't know. I just feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders. In the following days, the news spread like wildfire in my father's business circle. 2 major deals he was working on fell through because of the bad publicity. My father's account was overdrawn, and Lisa was removed from a high-profile project. They both tried to call me, but I ignored them at first. A week later, my uncle, my father's younger brother who was a school counselor, called me. Cheryl, I've always known you were special. Your father was wrong to treat you that way. And what Alex did was incredibly brave. Hearing his words, I finally broke down in tears. 3 weeks later, I decided to meet my parents at a coffee shop. They looked older and defeated. My father said, we're sorry. We want to start over. I told them, I'm not looking for just apologies. I need real respect. If you can't give that, then this is goodbye. As I left the coffee shop, I felt a sense of liberation. I realized that my worth was not determined by my family's approval. I had a husband who loved me, a job that I was passionate about, and a life that I'd built on my own terms. And for the first time in a long time, I truly believed that I was going to be okay.